Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, your home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. In today's video, a very exciting announcement, especially for someone who's a Bitcoin enthusiast. We've got Paul Ghezzi. He's the CEO and director of Kontrol Technologies back on the channel with $1 million Bitcoin announcement. Now, before we get into it, please take a second, smash the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And let me know in the comment section below if you've heard of Kontrol Technologies before, if you're currently holding shares, and what you think about their new Bitcoin strategy or approach. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay, guys, so that's right. Paul Ghezzi, the CEO of Kontrol Technologies, back on the channel. Now, it's only been a few days since we hosted you on the channel, Paul, but there's been a number of developments at Kontrol that you wanted to share with us, along with some major news, I guess, exciting to the Bitcoin community in terms of this $1 million Bitcoin purchase. So we'll get into that in a second. Before we do, thanks for making the time today and great to see you.
Yeah, great to be back. Thank you.
Now, we saw the press release come out this morning. Can you talk us through exactly what's happened in the last few days since you went to seek board approval to where we are now?
Sure. So this is something that I think we've been dialoguing about for a while, but we wanted to make it formal through a board process. So we completed our review and then made our first $1 million purchase. That $1 million represents less than 10% of our treasury. So that just gives you a sense of where we are in terms of cash. And so that initial purchase, begins our journey with Bitcoin. And then obviously we have some future plans, which we're not ready to share yet on, future purchases, either through profit or through treasury, but that would be the next stage of where we're going, following this first stage.
Interesting. Now, we've been talking a lot on the power mining analysis side of the channel about the US election upcoming here. Obviously, a lot of excitement around Bitcoin as they've talked about this strategic Federal Reserve as part of Trump's platform. Is there
Right.
any timing component to this, Paul, as we're heading into this US federal election?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, no one can ever time a large commodity market, and that's how I think of Bitcoin. In terms of the election, it's pretty clear Trump has been very public about his desire to, get behind Bitcoin and maybe make it part of the U.S. corporate treasury strategy. And on the other side, I think, the Democrats have been less enthusiastic. But I think, as most people know, anything this large tends to have its own momentum. And so, you got Tesla, MicroStrategy, you had Microsoft come out and say they're going to vote on putting it on the balance sheet. You have other Fortune 500 companies looking at it. So I think there's a momentum beyond politics, but I would say certainly Trump has been the most vocal about let's get Bitcoin on the government balance sheet.
Yeah, most definitely. So we've kind of talked about what you're doing. We've talked about the timing or when you're doing it. My next question is why you're doing it. So we've seen a number of companies, specifically on the power mining analysis channel. We talk about Bitcoin proxies. We've seen companies almost piggybacking on the MicroStrategy approach. Would you say that's what you're doing here with Kontrol Technologies, or why do you guys want to associate your company with Bitcoin?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy did it first. They were early, and they're in a unique position. So if you look at where they are, they're trading at about 60 times cash. They're trading at about three times asset value. They've got like a big premium built into their stock, right? If you look at Control, we're trading at around one times cash. We don't have a Bitcoin premium yet. And we have an operating business that has value. And the market has basically discounted us to one times cash. Those things happen in the market, right? As a long-term shareholder, I think we're undervalued as the biggest shareholder. So when I look at MicroStrategy, the playbook is different because that's 100% Bitcoin. It's borrowing to buy Bitcoin. And it's about that premium that he's built into the company and rightly deserved. That's not our approach. Our approach is to have an operating business, do M&A, have a portion of our treasury that's growing. But here's the really interesting thing on our side is we've been buying back our stock. So similar to Bitcoin, when you're reducing supply, you create value over time. So we bought back about 1.5 million shares of Control. And people ask me, why are you doing that? Well, if we feel that we're trading at a discount to where we should be, it makes sense, especially if we believe that's a large discount. Now, we've used the interest we've generated from our treasury, and I think people miss this when they look at us, to buy back the stock. So let's say we're going to generate 400,000 to 500,000 of interest over the course of a year on our treasury, and we've used 300,000 or 400,000 to buy back the stock. That's a pretty good investment in our view. So now we're adding Bitcoin to the strategy, where if we're reducing our shares, now you're getting more Bitcoin per share in the company, but we've also got the other treasury supporting that. And if we're buying more Bitcoin in the future, now you're getting more Bitcoin per share built into the Control story. And if we continue to do buybacks strategically, I think that's a great place to participate in the growth of a small company. And it's always easy to say go buy the big company, but as investors know, small companies can also have a different risk return profile if you catch them at the right time, and there's value in the business and the business is growing. So I think we don't represent what Saylor's doing. It's similar, but we've got our own unique features into share reduction, more Bitcoin per share, an operating business, and M&A.
Yeah, really interesting. It makes sense. I've thought about it obviously since our last discussion. Now, I wanted to highlight one piece you said there. So, essentially, the company is trading at cash right now. So, for people who are maybe watching this, they saw the Bitcoin thumbnail, they know nothing about your underlying business operations. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I know on our last discussion, you said we're expecting to increase revenue, profitability next year. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's feeding free cash flow into the business. Can you give us just a high level of what's going on that side?
So if you think about any large building in the commercial industrial sector, they'll have a significant HVAC system that operates the heating and cooling. The building doesn't run without that system. So we provide service, maintenance, improvements to those systems. We're in close to approximately 400 buildings right now and growing. And what we do for our customers essentially involves a bit of skilled technical support around the HVAC system, some technology, some service. Half of it, about half that revenue, is what we call recurring revenue, repeat business, and about half is project based. The business operates at about a 50% gross margin, and that's something that we want to scale and grow. So if I look at that business and then I look at the cash that we have on hand, it's pretty clear we're trading at a discount, to the business value. And I'm a long-term shareholder who's also been a buyer. So from that perspective, the more buildings we scale into, the more money we make, right? And it's a high margin business, and we're excited about the future potential of it. I've got cash to go do M&A. And I think, what we're really combining is a plan where we're reinvesting our profits back into the business, buying back some shares. We've instituted a Bitcoin strategy. And I think that makes, from a macro perspective, it makes perfect sense in creating shareholder value. And it's about, scarcity. And Bitcoin is a scarce resource because there's only so much that you can mine. We like to think of Control shares as a scarce resource because we're buying the stock back. We're building up the business, and now we've got Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So I think it's a really nice combination to create value long term.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And interestingly enough, I obviously understand the business quite well. I've looked at your company for years now. I was just in Amsterdam, Paul, talking on a panel about reusing excess heat from Bitcoin mining rigs, so the actual mining rigs, to heat buildings. So in Europe, they were using it for greenhouses, and then Marathon Digital actually has a big project for 11,000 residential homes. So as soon as you started talking about Bitcoin, I immediately thought, hey, if they were able to put these mining rigs in these commercial buildings and generate some heat, take advantage of wasted energy or power sink energy there, the gears started going in my head. So I don't know if you've thought about that or you've got that far down the road yet, but in terms of future long-term Bitcoin strategy, I think there are some synergies here as well.
So it's something that we're thinking a lot about and reviewing. And I would say most people don't understand that Bitcoin right now is about half of Bitcoin mining is from renewable energy sources. Right? So that's important. The other thing is, as you just mentioned, there are opportunities, projects where folks are using that reclaimed energy or maybe that stranded energy, and Bitcoin becomes a solution. And I often say, like the misconception around Bitcoin is really simple to understand. Like data centers are energy hogs. People are not staying away from Nvidia stock because of energy, right? Consumption. So if you think about it, it's an illogical old argument that doesn't meet the reality of today of renewable energy, energy efficiency. Maybe parlaying some of that Bitcoin mining, as you said, into reclaimed heat, housing, commercial buildings. I think there's all kinds of opportunities that are creeping into the market and will be here for the next 10 years. So we're excited about that potential, and we do think it has a sustainable story to it, which aligns with our values. And I'm excited about the potential of where we can go.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting you bring that up. I just saw a graph actually talking about productivity by country, GDP per capita based on energy consumption. And there's a direct correlation. The most high producing countries consume the most energy. And you're exactly right. It's just about sourcing that in a sustainable way. So great discussion today. Congratulations on this initial announcement, $1 million Bitcoin purchase for Kontrol Technologies. Hopefully the first of many as a Bitcoin advocate myself. You guys let us know in the comment section below what you think about this move. Paul, I'll pass it back to you for any closing thoughts, but we appreciate the time today and congratulations on this major move.
Yeah, thank you. So I would just close that, going back to my review in comparison to the Sailor strategy. We're not trying to be MicroStrategy. We think, we've got a great allocation here. We're buying back our stock. We've got cash on the balance sheet. We're doing M&A. We're going to grow the business. So I think we're in a good spot, to really create value and continue to grow. And Bitcoin is part of that future growth.
Amazing. Well, there you have it, you guys. Go take a look at Kontrol Technologies, a smaller company you may not have heard of, but definitely one to put on your watch list. If you're still watching, you found this valuable, make sure you smash the like button. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. We'll see you back here tomorrow.